It's good to see you. Welcome to another edition of Bible Shorts with Biblebob. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. So, I'm out here in a place, I think the town is called Cornville. It's close to Rimrock where I live down here in Arizona. And you might look behind me. And if you're watching online, I invite you to go subscribe to our YouTube channel because, the more people subscribe, the more we can get to the algorithms or something like that. I don't understand the whole thing, but more people watch it. So anyway, if you're watching this, you can see I got cows behind me. But today's lesson is about oxen, but I don't know what an oxen looks like. So these are as close as I could come. And I think they're safe. Or no, I think I'm safe. I don't think the cows will be running up on me, and I think maybe they're watching my back. So I'm gonna trust that you're gonna watch my back and tell me if the cows are gonna run up. So anyway, our Bible verse that we want to take a look at is from 2 Samuel chapter 6, verses 6 through 9. So what's happening here, the Israelites had gotten beaten up by the Philistines. They lost the battle, and the Philistines captured the Ark of the Covenant. So the Ark of the Covenant was symbolically the tabernacle or sanctuary, a traveling sanctuary where they believed that God inhabited that, his presence was there. Much like we might go to church and the Holy Spirit is there, and actually God's all over the place. But there's certain things that we do to have a remembrance of him. So back then, they carried certain things. Now, what was in the Ark of the Covenant was some holy artifacts. The Ten Commandments were in there, tablets of stone. I believe he had some manna in there. Uh, Aaron's rod that budded, it's another miracle we'll talk about another time. And the Holy of Holies, or the mercy seat, I think was like a plate of gold. I read somewhere that some studying commentators think that it weighed close to 565 pounds. So this thing was kind of heavy. So David wanted to get it back. And the Philistines, I don't want to go too far into the story because there's too many parts of it. When the Philistines captured it, they put it near their god, Dagon. And they woke up the next day, and Dagon, the concrete god, he's falling apart. Hands fall off, the head falls off. And they think, oh no, we better get rid of this. There's other things that happen too. So they put it on a cart and they send it down the road. All of a sudden, it goes to a guy's house. David hears about it. He says, well, we need to go get it and bring it to our city. So David goes, he does the same thing the Philistines do, only puts it on a new cart. That's the beginning of the trouble in this story I'm going to tell you about. But let me read you. Let me read you the Bible. So when they came to Nachon's threshing floor, a threshing floor was a place where they would take the wheat and they would thresh it. In other words, they would take the wheat and they would hammer it out to separate the good part from the bad part. So a threshing floor symbolically is a place of separation and judgment. Going to the cross is a place of separation, and hopefully judgment is not going to come our way if we go to the cross. We need to get there to remove the judgment, to be separated from our sin. That's why Jesus died. Everywhere in the Bible, you're going to find the story of Jesus if you look hard enough. So David wants to move this thing. He puts it on a new cart and moves it. And let me read the verse here from 2 Samuel 6, verses 6 through 9. When it came to Nachon's threshing floor, Uzzah reached out to the ark of God and took hold of it because the oxen had stumbled. Now, you might look at these guys in the background here, and they don't look like they're stumbling at all. But the oxen in this story, from what I understand, the roads were rocky, and even driving out here where I'm at on a forest road in Arizona, it's rutted, it's rocky. Most oftentimes, you probably ought to have a four-wheel drive. They didn't have a four-wheel drive cart. They had oxen, and sometimes the cart stumbled. So David was angry. So go back to the Lord's anger burned against Uzzah, and God struck him dead on the spot for his irreverence. So David was angry, and because of the Lord's outburst against Uzzah, he named that place Outburst Against Uzzah, as it is today. And David feared the Lord. So how then can the ark be moved? So the name Nachon, where the threshing floor was, it meant prepared. And the name Uzzah means strength. And you might remember that there's a gun called an Uzi, which is like a machine gun. The root word is the same as Uzzah. The word is Uz, which means strength. Uzzah reached out in his own strength to hold up the ark of God, and God took him out for it. One of the lessons there is that you cannot, in your own strength, do God's business without his permission. One of the mistakes I've made repeatedly, too often, with this podcast video, I don't pray and give this episode to God. And I know that when I do stop and I pray, as I did for this one, that I am more, I think, fluent in my delivery because I've studied it and I understand more and He gives me more insight. Without giving it to Him, I don't get the wisdom, insight, and knowledge that He wants me and you to have. So it's important to put God first. So Uzzah put out his hand, it was irreverent, and God took him out. So the other thing was is that David put the Ark of the Covenant on a new cart. Let me come back to that. It didn't belong on a cart. So David later does move it, but a couple of things in Numbers 4, 5, and 6 in the King James Version. I love the King James because it has this old magical language that sometimes we don't understand. But don't worry, we'll go to the Amplified next that goes above and beyond understanding. So Uzzah reached out and in the Numbers 4, 5, and 6. And when the camp setteth forward, Aaron shall come, his sons, they shall take down the covering veil, cover the ark of the testimony with it, and put thereon the covering of blue badger skins, and they shall spread over the cloth wholly of blue, and they shall put in the staves thereof. Staves, S-T-A-V-E-S. Y'all probably know what a stave is, don't you? I didn't. We're going to get there. So, but in the Amplified, it says, but they shall not touch the holy things. When they come to carry them, they shall not touch the carrying things. And so it tells about carrying them. So now let's get into how you're supposed to carry it and how you're supposed to treat this. So staves in Hebrew meant, in the word, if you were to say it in Hebrew, it's bad, 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 bad. What it means is alone, by itself, a part of the body, a branch of a tree, a bar for carrying, extended from something, poles or staves used for carrying the ark. Okay? Our understanding and wisdom is extended away from God because we don't know His ways. In Isaiah 55:9, it says, His ways are higher than our ways. His thoughts are higher than our thoughts. We're not going to understand everything that God does, but we can trust, and we've got a credible record that all things work together for good. So when you read Bible verses like the one we're reading today, Uzzah, he steadied the ark so it didn't fall, and God, boom, takes him out. Why? Because you steadied it and you helped it from not falling? There's a reason. There's a reason God does everything, no matter how hard the Bible verse is. There's a reason. So let me go into 1 Chronicles 15, 13, and 15. David learns from his mistakes. I suppose that's another key lesson from today. Be humble and be teachable. Learn from your mistake. Don't ask God why. Ask God, what can I learn from this episode in my life? For because ye did not at the first, the Lord our God made a breach upon us, for that we sought him not after the due order. Let me go into the Amplified and read that again. Because you did not carry it as God directed the first time, the Lord our God made an angry outburst against us, for we did not seek him in accordance with the ordinance. You got to be in accordance with the ordinance. That sounds like a pretty cool song there. So, because you did not carry it as God directed the first time, God made an outburst. So, David did what he thought was right, but he didn't consult God first. So often in life, what we do is we take the cart of the world like David did. He did the same thing the Philistines did. The Philistines were non believers that believed in a pagan God who was Dagon, this stone thing, and they put the ark on a cart. The cart was received, and David just puts it on a new cart. He doesn't consult in accordance with the ordinances. He takes the ways of the world, implements them into his own plan, expecting to receive the ways of God. It doesn't work like that. Everything that we do has to be according to the ways of God. And if we don't stop and consult in accordance with his ordinance or how he wants things done, bad things will happen. So maybe that's why stave means bad. Um, don't know how that fits in there, but it just happens to be the word. And I love the words of the Bible, love the words of the Hebrew, the Greek, the Aramaic. So pretty much the lessons from today: don't do anything God hasn't told you to do. Pray first before you make a big decision. And don't try to fit the world's culture into the way of God. God has his way. The Bible has the truth. The Bible has how we're supposed to live our lives with boundaries in relationships, in everything. And if we try and breach those boundaries and create something that says, well, God must want me to do it because it feels good. Oh, it looks good. God must want me to have it because why else would He have made it? I remember somebody once asked me, or they said that if God wanted me to smoke weed, why didn't He make it? Or why didn't He want me to smoke weed? And I says, well, God made water too, but hold your head underneath it and see what happens to you. Everything is designed for a purpose in God's world. So the last thing I think I'll tell you is that sometimes we're not going to understand the ways of God. I read a story this morning in a great book. I wish I could remember the authors. One of them is McDowell. I don't think it was Sean, but the other one I'll tell you another time. But there was a guy that saw birds making a nest in a tree across from his house. He goes and he promptly takes the nest down. And a lady nearby, a neighbor, looks and says, well, that was pretty nasty of that man. That's terrible. I should give him a piece of my mind. So the next day, the birds, as they will often do, they don't give up. They are resilient and persevering, which is a good thing. They try to build a nest again. Once again, the man goes over and takes the nest down. The lady's starting to fume. You can see the anger is starting to well up inside her, almost like a volcano is starting to before it erupts. Day number 3, the birds build another nest. The man goes back over, dismantles the nest. Finally, the lady couldn't take anymore and she explodes and goes out there. What's the matter with you? What do you hate birds? Are you a bird hater or something? When she finally stops fuming with all her vile vitriol, the man just simply looks at her and he says, well, no, you see, I know that next week the city's going to come and they're going to widen the road and they're tearing all these trees down. And I know that if the birds were to build a nest and they started to have eggs and the eggs hatched and they would have their young, that the young all would die. I took the nest down so the birds would be forced to go build a nest somewhere else that they would be able to have new life. What else can I say except thanks for your time. Go do something nice for somebody. Jesus loves you, and so do we. See ya.